it shouldn't have looked like this. It shouldn't have looked like this in week one, and it shouldn't have looked like this in week two after how it looked in week one. And there's numerous problems throughout the course of this offense. There's numerous problems without looking at just one in particular thing. There's so many different things that have gone wrong and went wrong with this Houston Texans offense. Let's start with the quarterback. You can't go anywhere if your quarterback's not excellent. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a quarterback that overcame numerous issues, overcame numerous problems throughout the course of this game, and C.J. Stroud did not overcome numerous problems. They get down to the 1 yard line, they run the football on second down, and then on third down and fourth down, he misses DeMeco Ryans in the end zone. He misses him right, he misses him left. He misses him right when it's one-on-one, he misses him left and throws it out of the end zone. Makes a totally uncompetitive throw to the point where one of the best wide receivers in football, one of the strongest, biggest wide receivers in football, couldn't go out there and make a play on the ball. Okay? Unacceptable. Not good enough. Let's go to the offensive line. Let's go to the five guys blocking in front of him. Total failure by the general manager to put an offensive line that was worth a crap on the field. Just an absolute total failure by the offensive line and by the general manager that helped assemble this offensive line. My biggest gripe with this offensive line is if you had spent a lot of money, there would at least be hope in this offensive line. If you had gone out there and highly invested in a guard or a different tackle, or just changed your entire approach from a financial standpoint, you'd at least have some hope that if a guy started slow, he'd play up to that level. You know what level Laken Tomlinson's playing up to? The same level he's played at for the better part of 3 years now, where the Jets for 2 seasons were miserable having him at guard, and the Seahawks were miserable for having him at guard last year. You know what level Jared Patterson's playing to? Backup center. You know why? Because he's a backup center. Ariante Ursary is a rookie tackle. Titus Howard was the right tackle of the future, and they thought so highly of Titus Howard to the point where he wasn't even involved in the decision-making process of the tackles until they figured out that Blake Fisher was damn near unplayable, and then Titus Howard was right back there at right tackle after the team clearly didn't want to start him at right tackle. Ed Ingram, you know, he doesn't even play last week because he gets an abdominal strain. He comes in. Sure, there was a nice moment from Ed Ingram. Sure, there wasn't enough from Ed Ingram. You know, the offensive line, it stinks. The general manager didn't do a good job putting it together. So that was a bad job by him. The wide receivers can't get open. They double DeMeco Ryans now, and then nobody else gets open. And if they are open, the offensive line doesn't hold up long enough for C.J. Stroud to get the ball. When they are open, C.J. Stroud doesn't throw them. And when they might be open or they might not be open, C.J. Stroud sometimes does or doesn't make the throw. The tight ends, they're a total nothing right now. Dalton Schultz had a couple of catches at the end, but Harrison Bryant gives you nothing. He's clearly not Cade Stover. You can't use him that way. And then the running backs. Nick Chubb is fine. He's going to have some moments where he gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. He's going to have some moments where he looks nice. He hits the hole and he turns on the burners and he has the acceleration. Daria Gumbawale is totally unacceptable as the third down running back. He has to be able to pass protect better than that. He cannot go out there and fail at the one thing that he's specifically on the field to perpetrate. He is specifically on the field to pass block as the third down running back, and he frequently looks like he's making the incorrect choice. And when he did make the correct choice one time, he just got bowled over by the Buccaneers defender right into C.J. Stroud. So if I properly addressed all the players on offense, because now the offensive coordinator is under fire, because I didn't love the play calling at the second and 1, third and 1, and fourth and 1. I don't love the sprint out where there's only really one option that you're trying to get the ball to. I don't love the throw it to the other side when there's only one option. I don't love running the ball out of shotgun where it gives Vita Vea time to go out there and make a decision and go out there and stuff the run and blow right past Laken Tomlinson, who provided no resistance for for Vita Vea. Okay. So I didn't like that. You go basically a whole game after 2 drives where you put points on the board where you can't get anything going. You throw the ball to running backs early. You do it one time later on. It doesn't go for big yardage, and you totally abandon that. You got 2 rookies One who looks dynamic as hell with the ball in his hands, and you can't get them the football on a consistent basis in the passing game. The quick game that you spent time building and putting together in the preseason looks totally non-existent and unavailable on a regular basis. And the confidence that I have that he can fix any of these things is super low, because most of the coaching staff's the same coaching staff that was around last year when they were stinking it up on offense. And the only changes you made was a promotion of a guy in the offensive line room from assistant coach to head coach. Well, DeMeco Ryans says they still can't communicate along the offensive line. So that's either a Cole Popovich problem or that's a 5 guys blocking problem. But that's an issue. You got to fix that. And you ran off the offensive coordinator. A lot of good stuff. Everything looks the same. Yeah, you had one really nice drive. Thank God you had the turnover from the special teams that put you in field goal range. And thank God Jalen Knoll was able to move the ball a little bit and then Nick Chubb was able to finish out a drive, because I don't know if they'd have scored again. And that's all on the offense. That's my issues. That's my beef with the offense. And then I flip it over to the defense, and it's like, well, they gave up 2 touchdowns in the first couple of drives to the Buccaneers. And then they spent damn near 40 minutes fighting and scratching and clawing with the Buccaneers before they give up another couple of points. And then they can't keep them off the scoreboard there at the end. The coach basically leaves it up to the defense to go out there and make the plays, doesn't use the timeouts at the end of the game to maybe give this paltry, pathetic, no good, very terrible offense a chance to put 3 points on the board, because your field goal kicker can kick it over 60 yards in a dome. But no, the coach says, I'm going to leave it to my defense. Well, what happens? They get bowled over by the backup running back. Game over. Tampa Bay Buccaneers win. So everything went terrible for the most part for this team, because a couple of drives here and there for the offense is not good enough. It's not good enough. And then the defense that plays bend, don't break for the better part of 35 minutes, they finally break, and because the offense can't do anything, 20 points is enough to win a football game. 20 points is enough to win a football game. And they're not anywhere close to good enough on offense. And there's so many issues that are, if you believe them, their fault, not a talent issue. And I don't know which is worse, because if I could just say, well, they're not very good, they're not very talented. Like when I look at the New Orleans Saints, I say, you know what? Offense, not very talented. Defense, not very good. It's easy to understand why the New Orleans Saints aren't very good. It's easy to understand why the Cleveland Browns aren't very good. It's easy to understand why the Tennessee Titans aren't very good. It requires a little bit more nuance, and it is a little bit more inconclusive as to why the Houston Texans have a total ineptitude on offense when they were supposed to be going down a different path, when they were supposed to have made changes necessary to avoid this, and why their defense, which many of us, myself included, thought was going to be Super Bowl caliber, why that defense is very much not Super Bowl caliber, and why it's in an untenable position of, if you're not perfect, you're probably going to lose the football game. Like, getting there is really hard to understand, because let's put it this way. Let's say it's on the players from an execution thing. And that's something DeMeco Ryans said. We got the guys on offense. He said, we just got to go out there and play better. Okay. How is communication? How is communication with the offensive line the reason you can't pass block? That's the first thing I asked DeMeco Ryans in the postgame. I said, how disappointing is it that protection for CJ Stroud is still an issue? Well, there's some communication issues with the offensive line. How? How are there communication issues? And yes, I understand the Tampa Bay Buccaneers blitzed and they got home, and they sent a bunch of different guys, and a bunch of different guys got pressure and got home on blitzes, which is a novel concept. We'll talk about Jalen Petrie in a minute. But how can communication still be an issue? I mean, it's not like they added a guy a couple of days before the season started. All these guys have been here since minicamp and OTAs in the spring, before the summer break. Ursery's been here. Tomlinson's been here. Patterson's been here. Ed Ingram's been here. Titus Howard's been here. They've all been here. So how's communication an issue? Don't tell me it's cohesion, because cohesion wasn't important last week when you shuffled the entire damn offensive line. So it's not cohesion. Don't tell me it's cohesion. That's not important. So how's communication an issue? Is that a CJ Stroud to the offensive line communication? Is that a Nick Caley to CJ Stroud to the offensive line communication? Is that an O-lineman to O-lineman communication issue? How can that be an issue? How can the Tampa Bay Buccaneers move their center to left tackle, promote a practice squad left guard, lose their starting right tackle, play Charlie Heck at right tackle, have a backup center snapping the football, and the regular starter at right guard? How can that offensive line be enough for Baker Mayfield? But for the most part, the line the Texans have planned to start for the better part of a month basically gave them no chance to win. How can that be the case? Nick Caserio did a horrible job. He did a horrible job finding talented players to help this offensive line. And maybe they didn't want someone to be a highly compensated offensive lineman who maybe had a big personality because they got tired of that with Laramie Tunsil. Well, at least if the player was highly compensated, there'd be some record, some history in the past couple of years of them playing good football. There's not that with Laken Tomlinson. There's not that with Ed Ingram. There's not that with Jared Patterson. There's not that with Jake Andrews. There's not that with Titus Howard. There's not that with Ariante Ursery. There's no hope on this offensive line. They are hopeless at offensive line. They've got 2 second-round picks that sit and marinate on the bench that are unplayable. Unplayable football players that were drafted in the second round in consecutive years. And they can't play those guys. And the other guys that are in their place aren't any good either. So I don't really buy that it's a communication issue. I buy that it's a flat-out, unadulterated talent issue with that offensive line. They can't move people. They can't protect the quarterback. And it's a continuation of last year's offensive line that couldn't move people and couldn't protect the quarterback. And now you've got a quarterback who's gun-shy, who lacks confidence, who does not just rip it when he sees it. I can't tell you how many times I watch Tonight from the Press Box and I see all 22 players on the football field and I see someone running wide ass open and CJ Stroud doesn't just let it rip. He's been beaten down and he doesn't have any confidence in the 5 guys blocking for him, and that's led to a shakiness in the confidence of his abilities, and now he's an inconsistent player. To go along with the inconsistent offensive line, to go along with the inconsistent rushing attack, to go along with the inconsistent wide receivers, to go along with an offense that is unreliable. It's unreliable. It is incapable of operating on a schedule. It is incapable of keeping the train on the tracks because something will derail them. And more often than not, it's pass protection. So the offensive line has set this team up for failure. And amidst that failure, adding to it is the quarterback, the play caller, the third down running back, and a variety of receivers that can't get open. And on top of all that, when you watch defenses play the Texans, blitzes get home. And the Texans, they're sending Jalen Petrie play after play after play on blitzes, and I never see Petrie anywhere close to the quarterback. And yeah, they put some heat on Baker Mayfield. But you know what he did? He got the ball out, because there were answers to the questions. His offensive line gave him just enough, or he escaped. Because he gave them just a little bit of a chance, because he's just got a little bit more juice and a little bit more confidence, a little bit more moxie, a little bit more talent right now than CJ Stroud. And he gave them just enough over there in Tampa Bay. And because the Texans have done a poor job with the offensive line in CJ Stroud's tenure as a quarterback, they've shaken some of that confidence away from CJ Stroud. They've shaken some of that moxie, some of that F you, I'm awesome, we're going to win that he possessed in 2023. A lot of that's gone. It's not showing up at the QB position. Between the ears, how he operates, the throws that he doesn't make now that he used to make. It's bad. It's a bad situation. All right, I'll get to questions. I'll get to comments. I'll get to joys. I'll get to concerns. I might even open this sucker up for video if people want to jump in, but super chats are going to jump to the front of the line. The drunk Texan, CJ accuracy is trash. Stroud's not good enough right now. He's not good enough. He's also not an elevator right now. He is not a player that is pushing a bunch of the other players up right now. He is not a player that is elevating his teammates. He is a player that right now requires elevation. He needs things around him to be in a good spot, and then he can assist once it is in that good spot. But he is not taking guys and dragging them into the realm of success. Thank you, Drunk Texan, for the super chat. Night Cuff. Can't imagine signing Stroud to an extension at this point. Dude has been terrible for the last 12 starts he's had. Oh, you shouldn't be thinking about an extension right now if you're the Texans and you're CJ Stroud. Absolutely not. You don't have to do it. You do not have to sign that contract. You should. There are so many football games to be played where he'll either prove that he's worth it or not worth it, and then he goes into another prove it year. But extension conversations, we shouldn't be having those anymore. We're not going to have those for a long time. This has got to look a lot better. And I just talked about it. That quarterback's got to be an elevator. He's got to be a guy that can take guys to the next level, not need them to already be at a good level and then make them a little bit better. Not anywhere close to even thinking about a contract extension for CJ Stroud right now. Can't do it. Can't do it. All right. Get to some comments here. I know there's been a lot of people in the chat. I'll get to as many as I can here. Start with James. It's on CJ. He's throwing too high and behind. Yep, some of the throws aren't very good. Some of the throws aren't very good. And some of the throws, even when they're good, they could have been better. He's going to be better. As JB the Great says, CJ doesn't look anything like he did his rookie year. He's not exciting like he was that first year. And another thing about CJ, another element about CJ, he looked dour, sour, and pissed off at the podium today. And just, short, curt answers, really felt like the dauber was down. Now, by the end of the conversation, he had a little bit more and he's given a little bit more, but it ultimately came down to we're not playing well enough, we're not doing good enough, and we got to do better. And there weren't a lot of answers. There was one moment where he said, well, there was no communication issues on my end. Now, I don't know that it was, I don't know if the question was asked exactly the way I would have asked that question. I think the question was about communication, and he thought it was about fourth down calls or goal line calls. And the communication that DeMeco Ryans was referencing was about the offensive line. But he does not look like he has bought into this offense. He does not look like he has any confidence in this offensive line. You can see that in the way that he approaches his play. And this is a guy that, frankly, hasn't had this level of adversity in a long time. Yeah, they lost a little bit at Ohio State. And they lost to Michigan at Ohio State. He still played for national championship. Played awesome against Georgia, nearly won. Rookie year, awesome. Better than anybody could have expected. Last year, a lot of adversity. Never got consistent. Never got going. Hasn't bounced back from that. Here in 2025, not consistent. Hasn't got going. O-line's not very good in front of him. Wide receivers aren't all world wide receivers like he had at Ohio State. Play caller's not a genius. You know, a lot of this stuff's not in a good situation for CJ Stroud. He's not responding well. It's tough on him. It's made his job harder. And it all kind of starts to fold in on itself. If you don't have somebody to reach in there and pull you out of the abyss of suck that this offense has turned into, it just keeps folding in on itself. It keeps folding in on itself, and you have this issue where you can't get anything consistent. Paul Young weighs in. The start of season with this O-line is criminal. Also, I think they have coached out the great anticipation throws CJ was making his rookie season. It's the David Carr situation all over again. There's definitely a confidence level that CJ Stroud used to have in the blocking and the scheme, and he doesn't seem to have that right now. Louis, what are the chances Nick and all this coaching staff get the boot if this is a S show and the whole season is bad? Nick is a big reason why they suck. DeMeco doesn't have the team discipline, and O is bad. I mean, if they blew out the offensive staff, it'd be the first time they did it. Remember, they changed two guys in key roles on the offensive staff. They fired Bobby Slowick. They fired Chris Strausser. They promoted Cole Popovich to take Chris Strausser's job, and then Nick Caley was the new guy at the offensive coordinator spot. And he brought over one guy from the Rams coaching staff who also used to be, if I remember correctly, a Patriots guy back in the day. So, yeah, former Patriots guy. So there's two new faces in the offensive room and one promoted face. So if they blew out the offensive staff at the end of the year, that'd be the first time they blew out the offensive staff because they fired two guys and replaced one of them with an in-house candidate and then added two out-of-house candidates whose histories were at LA and previously New England. Now, do I believe DeMeco Ryans can lose his job at the conclusion of this year? No, I don't. I don't believe he can. And I understand people say, undisciplined. Yes. Could the defense have had a little bit more tonight? Certainly. Did DeMeco Ryans believe and hope that they were going to stop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on that final drive? He absolutely did. Was he disappointed when they didn't? Yes. Does he hold the defense to a different standard than the offense? It certainly seems that way. But he's not losing his job at the end of this year. He would get another opportunity. I don't know how I can say the same for Nick Caley. I don't know how I can say the same. Rob weighs in. When you draft a franchise QB and start to build a new head coach and elite defense is what you get. Minus 20 points per game defense, minus 20 points per game offense, struggling QB. Yeah, if you had an offensive-minded head coach, maybe you'd have a little bit more juice. If you had an offensive-minded head coach, maybe you have a little bit more juice. Maybe you wouldn't have a transition. Maybe you wouldn't have changed some things. You don't. You have DeMeco Ryans. And you have a defense that pulled themselves up by their bootstraps at the conclusion of those first couple of touchdowns. And then they went and found themselves 35 minutes of scoreless football, even in some precarious positions, went and found themselves 35 minutes of scoreless football and then couldn't hold on there at the end because they have to be perfect or this team can't win a football game. The defense very close to having to be perfect or not being able to win a football game. And that's not a position that you should be in. That's not a position you should be in when you made these investments and these changes to the offense in the offseason, and they have produced nothing for you. They have not produced any noticeable, big-time, wholesale change to the way you operate as an offense because you're still a huge question mark in your consistency. Saw that tonight. They put together 2 scoring drives and then didn't do it again until late in the game. And then when they got to the freaking goal line, sucked again. And if the defense isn't perfect, doesn't keep the opposing team under 14 points, you're not going to defeat them, apparently. Viromaniac. Mayfield and Stafford have both gotten rocked, but playing better than CJ. We need to start looking at him. There needs to be a time for accountability. CJ Stroud right now is not an elevator. CJ Stroud needs help. Maybe he can become an elevator when he gets the help, but without the help, he is not an elevator right now. He is not taking guys and dragging them out of where they are and turning them into productive players. He is not dragging this offensive line to success. Baker Mayfield put the entire Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization on his back tonight and willed them to victory amidst an offensive line shuffle, and somehow, some way, they found a way to win the football game. The Texans couldn't at home. After Baker Mayfield's team missed a field goal, had a blocked punt, and allowed multiple big plays to a special teamer, Baker Mayfield still went out there and won the football game for his team. Got them all the way down there, handed it off to backup running back, boom, touchdown. Stroud's not an elevator right now. Tony A says, Toto shouldn't be an NFL starting linebacker. He makes that tackle on fourth down. This is a totally different conversation. Well, yeah. It's also a totally different conversation if they had, 6 more points, 7 more points, 2 more points. How about you don't get sacked on the freaking 2-point conversion play? To dial down specifically on Henry To'oTo'o, who's a very solid player, seems a little pedantic. I don't think I used that word right. Seems a little silly. To'oTo'o tackles Baker Mayfield on fourth down. Sure, CJ Stroud hits a couple more throws. They win the football game. Laken Tomlinson blows one last block, maybe they win the football game. And one particular defensive guy, and look, the defense, you can't allow 5 yards per carry. It's not good. They kept them off the scoreboard for 35 minutes. Then they ran out of gas. Thank you for the super chat, Tony. Viral Maniac. Oh, and this shows defense doesn't win championships. Yeah, certainly doesn't help you get to the dance. Certainly doesn't help you get to the dance right now. Thank you for super chat, Viral Maniac. Mark Sanchez says should have got Cliff Kingsbury when they had the chance. Yeah. Washington's not good on offense right now. I'm a play caller guy. I know play calling is important, and I'll go to almost every NFL game when I look at it. Almost every NFL game, I'm going to say, how good's the quarterback? How good's the guy calling the plays? Okay? And that's going to happen. That's going to be my starting basis for a lot of my analyzation or thought process of how this thing operates. But they just might flat out not even have anywhere close to the amount of talent necessary to operate an offense. It just may be they don't have 11 guys that they can trust to go out there and do exactly what they want them to do. And first-time play caller, second-time play caller, 10-time play caller. How's Chip Kelly look right now? They've scored 29 points in 2 games for the Raiders. They play the Patriots and the Chargers. Like Chip Kelly's he's called more plays than Nick Haley's probably watched in his life. The experienced play caller, it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, no, I wish I had that. You want to make the argument that maybe they know how to fix stuff because they've had stuff go wrong more often, I'd listen to that. But I don't know, Chip Kelly could have made these offensive linemen good enough and this situation good enough. If you gave Andy Reid this offense, they couldn't score points. Like, yeah, they might be a little bit better, but ultimately, Ariante Aristide not going to block a guy, and Laken Thomason's not going to block a guy, and Jared Patterson's not going to block a guy. And Ed Ingram and Titus Howard and Cam Robinson or Juice Scruggs or Blake Fisher or Jake Andrews, like, they're not going to block. And the Darga Boy is going to come in there on third down. He's going to make the wrong decision in pass blocking, or he's just going to make the correct decision and get blown up, and they're going to get sacked, and they're going to have to punt. Like, Andy Reid couldn't fix that. Ben Johnson couldn't fix that. Kevin O'Connell couldn't fix that. They likely do not have enough talent to operate a consistent, acceptable offense. They likely don't possess that. And Jesus Christ could have the headset, and they'd probably still struggle to get first downs on a consistent basis. Primetime Vari. You think CJ has the keys to check out of a play to a different one? I just believe he had the chance to check out of that run play from Gunn at the goal line. That play stunk. You got Nick Chubb. He's a barrel. Or he should be barreling into linemen. And they ran a soft-ass shotgun run that allowed Vita Vea to pick out exactly how he's going to attack Nick Chubb and tackle him short. That play sucked. Nick Caley shouldn't have called that play. They went out of shotgun on third down, 3rd and 1. They decided to go away from the run. They ran what was probably their best pass play. Stroud blows the throw, can't get it to Nico. They ran another pass play. Stroud blows the throw, doesn't even get it in bounds, throws it out of bounds. So I don't know what CJ has the control to do at the line of scrimmage or what he does or doesn't do at the line of scrimmage. He's part of the problem too. With this. If it's communication, then he's a part of the communication on the offensive line, and he's a part of the problem. He's got to be better. Or they need to take it away from him. Okay? He asked for it. I want to more control the line of scrimmage. Well, maybe he's not good enough at it. Take it away from him. Make the center do it. Of course, they have a backup center who's been a backup for the first 2 years of his career, didn't have a chance, had a chance to win the starting job, didn't win the starting job, lost to a guy who played 78 snaps in the NFL at right guard. Before that, that guy's hurt. He's out. So it's not like he's going to come in and just be some mastermind. Maybe you should have invested in a veteran center instead of your plan being, well, let's just claim a guy off of waivers. Let's have Jarrett Patterson and Juice Scruggs compete with that guy. Maybe you should have spent money on a veteran center. Someone that could help the quarterback, someone who's seen who's been in the shit on the offensive line. He's had guys flying at him, trying to rip his head off, trying to rip his quarterback's head off, and not some guy that, has been a part-time starter for you only out of necessity. Another guy who's been totally and utterly a disappointment in Scruggs and Patterson. And then maybe another guy, the last time he played center and blocked anybody was in the whatever conference Troy's in. So maybe you should have had a veteran center in there and spent a little bit of cash. But light the money on fire to go get Nick Neiman, though. And you want to extend Jalen Petrie? Yeah, it's great. How many plays did he make tonight? How many times are we going to blitz Jalen Petrie and not have him get home? How many times? Rick says he doesn't believe that Nico believes in CJ at this point. I mean, it's tough to tell from Nico. He says basically the same thing every time he talks to the microphone. He's very easygoing. Yeah, we got to be better. Oh, we'll get it together. CJ also has never had all of his weapons for the majority of the season. I mean, Baker Mayfield's down Chris Godwin today. He's down his number 2 wide receiver. His backup running back at one point leaves the game due to injury. Like, he's down multiple linemen. They're starting a practice squad left guard, for God's sakes. And Baker gets it done. Puka Nacua is bleeding from his face last week. Missed parts of the game. Stafford's still getting it done. Like, CJ hadn't had all his weapons. Okay. Well, what about the guys that are there? What about the 34th overall pick that's got, 5 targets in 2 games? What about the other wide receiver that you drafted, looks dynamic with the football in his hands, and somehow, some way they can't get the ball to him on offense to use that dynamic ability on offense? CJ hadn't had his weapons. I mean, come on. Come on. You know what he had? Nico Collins in the end zone. You know what he did? Threw it out of bounds. Yeah, they were predictable last year. They feel very predictable this year. Blue Boy weighs in. Cody, I think the real problem is Casario's building a team from the outside in. All of the resources have gone to wide receivers, DBs, defensive ends. Think about it. Couldn't stop a 2-yard play. Couldn't get 2 yards. Yeah, they had, the defensive tackles were terrible tonight. Absolutely terrible. Sheldon Rankins played nice, but Mario Edwards isn't even the box score. Mario Edwards is not even in the box score. Tim Settle had, I think, 2 tackles. Foley Fatukasi was getting pushed around like a shopping cart. Defensive tackles weren't very good. Interior offensive line, not good. Didn't pick up stunts, didn't pick up blitzes. Totally lost. Yeah, a lot of investment on the outside. You're right, Blue Boy. On the inside, they got a bunch of journeyman defensive tackles. They got a bunch of journeyman interior offensive linemen. And shocker, they get blown off the football in both of those scenarios. Daniel Torres. Why is it the same issue over and over again? Bad play calling and no offensive line. Bill O'Brien, George Gotsey, Tim Kelly, Pep Hamilton, Bobby Slowick, now Nick Caley. Maybe NRG's built on an Indian burial ground, and there's a curse. Jerome Kicks, we rather this problem or the Bengals problem? All offense, no defense. Well, I mean, if you had some offense, you'd be 2-0. You'd be 2-0, and you'd be like, maybe they can hobble this thing over a couple of times and then, get going eventually. There haven't been any signs of life from this offense that make you feel like they're going to get going. They threw the ball at running backs early on, and then they didn't do it again until later. It got no yards as they stopped doing it. James R. with we're already at the point where we're to blame the media part. At what point do you guys, the media, be a little bit more direct and tell them what they suck on offense? Well, I started the press conference tonight, James, with how is it still a problem that CJ Stroud can't get protected? And the head coach told me it was a communication issue. So, what do you want me to say? I have to be respectful. I can't walk in there and tell DeMeco Ryans, hey man, you guys sucked on offense again. What happened? So we're to the blame the media portion. We're not tough enough on them. We haven't asked Nick Caserio every which way about figuring out this offensive line, and he's just pontificated on and on about how this and that and investment, blah, 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 blah. Come on, man. Why didn't they use Marks and Knoll more? The only excuse I have for you is Nick Caley comes from a system and an organization in his past that didn't trust rookie players. The Patriots a lot of times don't trust rookies, and for whatever reason, they're more comfortable putting Justin Watson and Daria Gumbawale on the football field instead of Woody Marks and Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins. Why activate a fullback and not use him on the 1-yard line? Well, because he sucked up to that point. Jakob Johnson was terrible until he blocked a punt and saved his entire day. He stunk to high heaven before that. He stunk to high heaven before that. Abigail brings up a good point. You want to give up on CJ now? Well, maybe the coaching needs to change. Daniel Jones in Indianapolis, Baker Mayfield in Tampa. They can do when they get on the right team and coach. It doesn't certainly feel like they have the right offensive system that's working for CJ Stroud right now. So I'm doing the best to get to as many of these comments as I can. So fantasy high school sports need to fire the entire offensive line. I mean, they did that, and they replaced them with a bunch of guys who can't block. And even in times when they had success and they had some nice clean pockets for CJ, that was quickly gone away, and they were giving up pressure or giving up sacks. Where's Michael Dieter at when you need him? Yeah, that's another crazy part about 2023 versus this year. They went to a backup offensive line against a nasty Pittsburgh Steelers team that came in early in the season. They did a really good job that day with a mostly backup offensive line. And they can't put any consistency together on the O-line in 2014, certainly not so far in 2015. Now this is funny. Cody is afraid to be too hard on CJ because it would make the Graham Mertz pick look worth it. Now that's funny. That's a funny one, Rich Boy. That's a funny one. Oh man. No, I'm not gonna ever like that Graham Mertz pick. I don't care what happens. Clip this for when he turns into QB1 because CJ ain't it, I guess. We're all in trouble if that happens. Daniel, Deshaun Watson had nobody other than DeAndre Hopkins, and he made it work. I remember when Deshaun's people were talking about how he had, I think the quote was Walmart greeters out there helping him out. So that's, again, elevators. CJ's not elevating anybody right now, and they're not helping him. They're not elevating him. It's really bad on offense, and the hope that there is something salvageable and change, and that you don't have some sort of broken approach to this situation, it's waning. The hope is waning. Rod MJ wants to fire soft DeMeco Ryans. And I don't think that's the answer. All right. I just put the link at the top of the chat here. If you want to get in live on video, have your say, you certainly can. You can do that. And you can do that with the link at the top. It'll open up your video. You get in the backstage, I'll bring you on. And if you want to have a conversation, make it short, sweet, to the point. We'll go a little back and forth, and we'll keep it moving if people show up. Of course, the comment section always going to be active and popping. And super chats will still cut to the front of the line. But if you want to get in on video, you want to have a conversation, you want to say your piece, you certainly can. That link's at the top of the description. Nick Jones, I'm real worried, Stoots. CJ lost that killer instinct. O-line has never been good in history. I'm perplexed to that we went different coach tree for OC, and it's the same damn plays. Yeah, that certainly is concerning and different and weird and strange. And You went to a different spot and it should look different, and a lot of it looks the same. And that's a tough spot to be in. Nick Crawford's been a member for 6 months. Thank you, Nick, for the memberships. They let Ogunbowale block on third down 3 times, and he failed each time. How does this happen in the NFL? Let someone else try. Surely it's infuriating. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was not good. Not good from Dare Ogunbowale, and they should not put him on the field anymore. He should lose his job to Woody Marks, just like Dameon Pierce lost his job to Woody Marks. Sailor Katori, do you think C.J. Stroud could get traded or benched? Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't think it's coming anytime soon, but eventually, sure. Probably a conversation for next year or much later this year. But like, could it eventually happen? But it's not anywhere close to happening. You got to ride this thing out with C.J. Stroud, because you got to find out as much as you got to find out about Nick Caley and the rest of this offensive staff and those 5 guys that are blocking for C.J. Stroud. You got to find out about number 7. You've got to know without a shadow of a doubt, one way or the other, this is or this isn't the guy. You've got to know. And you don't find that out by benching him. You got to go out there and play him, and he's got to fight through the adversity, and he's got to improve, and he's got to try to make people better, all those various things. You went in the trenches, and we're soft in them right now. Paul Young, similar offensive line conversation. Our line's full of gentlemen. Need some brawlers, Rottweilers, nasty players. I'd have that Giants lineman who slapped the defensive player to the ground. Want to see the D-line on the floor at the end of the play. That guy was bad before and after the slap. Yeah, soft front. They got worked on that. Why didn't they run the ball instead of 3 straight throws in the end zone? Because they probably don't believe in the offensive line because they can't move anybody. That whole we're going to be physical, we're going to be tough, that's out the window now. That's out the window now. Rob misses head coach Bill O'Brien. Not GM Bill O'Brien, but head coach Bill O'Brien. Nick Jones wants John Gruden to be the next coach of this team. Gruden ain't coming to be the OC, so if Gruden's showing up, Gruden's going to be the head coach. So I guess you're in the fire DeMeco category by default there, Nick. Rod MJ, fire DeMeco, getting tired of giving him the same damn excuses. One of the most undisciplined teams I've ever seen. Like, do something about it for fuck's sake. I mean, they kept the Buccaneers off the scoreboard for damn near 40 minutes. Like what? Don't give up the final touchdown. I understand that aspect of it, but like, they gave up 3 scoring drives, 4 if you count the missed field goal, but they gave up 3 scoring drives today. And the offense managed, damn near nothing. So, and what are you doing? Where are you going? Like, who's the guy that's coming to save the Houston Texans if you fire DeMeco Ryans? Like, if you want to say fire DeMeco Ryans, be my freaking guest. That's totally your opinion. You can go in that category, but you need to have a solution. You can't just be, fire DeMeco Ryans. Well, then what do you do? Who are you hiring? You'll hire John Gruden? That wasn't working for the Raiders. That wasn't working for the Raiders the last time Gruden was doing it. Then you can go hire. You're going to go hire a hotshot offensive coordinator who's never called plays before? Or has never been a head coach before? Who are you going to go recycle? Doug Peterson? That thing sucked in Jacksonville last year. You can go hire Matt Nagy off the Chiefs staff? If you want to fire DeMeco Ryans, be my guest. Have a plan, though. They're very inconsistent with clock management. Very inconsistent, Panda. You're absolutely right about this. Very inconsistent. They do not have a standard that they like to get to on clock management. I mean, sometimes they like to go fast. Sometimes they like to, pull back the reins. Sometimes they like to go, go, go. I didn't like the drive at the end of the half and in the first half on this one. Didn't like that. Rich Boy J, you appreciate the Mertz pick when Goodell hands him a Lombardi in NRG Stadium. I mean, I guess so. Rich Boy, this is the first time CJ's lost 3 games in a row. Yeah, got to bounce back. He's got to figure it out. Woody had a great pickup in pass pro. He was even out of position to make that play, and he still threw his body in there and got a good pass protection. Give me more Woody Marks. I need more Woody. I need more Woody. I think the defense got out of the swarm mentality because of the distraction, have them making mistakes, and with trying to make everything a highlight play. Yeah, they love to thump somebody about 12 yards down the field. They love that. Nick Jones. Yeah, Kubiak did have a bunch of guys that he just liked. A couple teachers' pets there. Blue Boy, in my opinion, Will Anderson has been the most impressive Texan so far. So much so I don't think it's a bad idea to shop Danielle Hunter around for a good guard, even out talent in the trenches. I mean, they'd have lost the game if they didn't have Danielle Hunter tonight. I mean, Darrell Taylor, Derek Barnett, and Dylan Horton gave you absolutely nothing. So they lost the game if they didn't have Danielle Hunter tonight. Will Anderson had some really rough moments in the run game. So, I mean, he's excellent. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the best pressure guys in football right now. Like, you use a little bit more from the run game, and they used his aggression against him a couple of times. Are we worse because CJ's allowed to audible, or is he not even audibling, or even though he's allowed to? Yeah, good question. I mean, Nick Haley's going to kind of have to answer that. I mean, you want to hire Josh McCown? Okay. Well, again, that would be a first-time play caller. That'd be a first-time head coach. Because McCown doesn't call the plays. And they didn't hand him play calling duties in Carolina when they fired Reich. I mean, Case Keenum might have been the key. Who knows? Nick Jones, I want to be on the record. I'm not in the fire DeMeco wagon, but I do think we need to be a quasi-coaching thing like when they tried do with Coops because he couldn't hire a defensive staff. Also, like, take it out of his hands and hire a guy that maybe has more familiarity with the general manager. What they just did. Season isn't over. No, it's not. They started 0-2 a couple years ago. The schedule is much easier. The schedule is much more difficult right now. If you can get to the bye week 2-3, you're surviving. But that's going to require you to win back-to-back games, including a road game in Jacksonville next week. And then, survive whatever the Ravens do to you. Chip Kelly was right there, man. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Raiders scored 9 points tonight. They scored 20 points last week. Like again, Andy Reid couldn't coach this offense right now. It would look a little bit better. It would look a little bit better, but it's It's not all the play caller. It is a conglomeration of issues that did not get fixed on the offense that have led to this. Gilly trying to do the old look over here, Cody. You pump for Saturday, guns up. Tech finally has a good squad. And they beat Utah. Whew, that thing could be taken off. That thing could be really fun. Jose, if we go on a run and beat Baltimore, we'll feel great, but that's like putting wheels on your grandma and asking her to be a bicycle. Jose, I don't know what you're getting at, but if they beat the Baltimore Ravens, and I don't care if that's to go to 1-4, to go to 2-3, I don't care if that's to go to 3-2. If they beat the Baltimore Ravens, that's notable. That's important because that team owns them right now. If they beat the Baltimore Ravens, I don't care how many wheels grandma has. You keep riding that train. Outlaw, I'm not mad at the play calling. At some point, the players have to execute. Yeah. At some point, Lincoln Thomas is going to block somebody. At some point, Dario Dubois is going to get his assignment. You know? Okay. Let's call it there. I did the live. I usually do the recorded, but I wanted to talk with the people here after this one. I know a lot of people watch Landry's post-game show. We're going to have SNL for you in the morning. 9 a.m., 9 to 11. Plenty to get to on SNL. Plenty to get to. Go more in depth on this, intricacies of the players, talk a little bit more about the defense. I didn't talk much about the defense in this one. So SNL, myself, Landry Locker, 9 a.m., okay, 9 a.m. Texans Collective tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock tomorrow. So if you want to keep talking about this game, don't miss either of those. 9 a.m. tomorrow for SNL. And then you've got the Texans Collective at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Myself, Landry Locker, Reggie, and Sean Pendergast will have that for you. So I really appreciate everybody for jumping in late. I know we don't usually do the late ones. I got to tell you about Sleeper. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Get a $100 deposit match up to $100 when you use my code Stoots. STOOTS, STOOTS. It's the link in the description down below. We didn't hit our sleepers this week. Because they didn't get the ball to Nico Collins. And we didn't hit our sleepers this week because Baker Mayfield didn't throw an interception. But we're going to hit them next week. We already hit one week one. We're going to hit some over the course of the week. It's daily fantasy. It's super easy to play. It's a lot of fun. Putting a couple predictions together. And if you get all those predictions right, you multiply your money, sometimes up to 100 times your entry with Sleeper. Use my code Stoots, STOOTS. You'll get a match bonus up to $100. Put in 100, get 100. Put in 50, get 50. Put in 10, get 10. Okay? Daily fantasy, so easy. Links in the description down below. Terms, conditions do apply. See all the terms, conditions with Sleeper. Active in over 25 states. Use that code Stoots, STOOTS. STOOTS. And a link in the description down below. Okay, actually, we're going to stay on because we got a super chat and a couple more. Paul says, I'm looking forward to the number one pick in the draft. Why you do this to me, Paul? Right now, the Texans would pick 10th overall. And in that, in the mock draft I'm looking at, it has them taking Francis Mauga, the tackle from Miami. So, there you go. Spencer Fano from Utah is the tackle that a lot of people are going to pay attention to. Spencer Fano from Utah, in case you're wanting to get an early start on the draft. Not that I want to. I don't. I will if I have to, but I don't. Nick says, cheers. Jason, thank you for being here. Heisenberg's not happy. If we get the first pick, we'll pick Arch Manning. No, thank you. And yes, Panda says off-season talk after 2 games. None of that now. We still got plenty. So, all right. Appreciate everybody for, things are bad when Cody's talking draft in week 2. Yeah. Be watching the big uglies on the offensive line for the next few weeks in case things go south. But hey, you got the Jaguars next week, and they suck. So hopefully you can kick their ass. So appreciate everybody coming through on the live stream. I know it's been late. I know nobody's super pumped. If you're watching this after the fact and you stayed to this point, thank you. I end the live streams the same way each and every time. I want you to eat good. I want you to sleep good. I want you to be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.